Have you ever made a mistake and hoped no one would ever find out? Have you ever hurt someone quietly and told yourself it didn't really matter? This is the story of a man who thought no one was watching, but God was, and life was listening. This is a story you will never forget. In a small village, surrounded by cracked earth and endless heat, there stood an ancient stone well. The sun burned fiercely, and the wind carried dust instead of relief. That well was the heartbeat of the village. Every morning, women lined up with clay pots. Children played beside the walls. Old men sat under the neem tree, talking about crops and rain. The well belonged to no one and to everyone. In that village lived a man named Raghav. Raghav was not poor. He had fertile land, strong oxen, and a solid house with painted doors. But inside him lived a hunger that never rested. When his neighbor's crops grew tall, he wanted his to grow taller. When someone bought a new buffalo, he wanted two. He believed life was a race, and he had to win. One night, when the moon floated silver above the silent village, Raghav walked quietly to the well. He looked around. No footsteps, no voices. Slowly, he lowered the bucket. 1, 2, 5, 10 times. He carried the stolen water to his fields in the dark. "It's only a little," he whispered. "God understands. I have responsibilities." But that little became more the next night, and more the night after that. The water level dropped slowly at first, and no one noticed, but the sun grew harsher, the wind hotter, the well sank lower. The morning lines grew longer. Some families returned home with half-filled pots. Mothers warned their children not to waste a single drop. Whispers began. "Will there be no rain this year?" Raghav stood among them, shaking his head with false concern. "We must pray," he said loudly. "God will provide." But at night, he returned again. His crops soon became the greenest in the village, lush, strong, alive, while others' fields began turning yellow. People whispered, "How is his land thriving?" Raghav heard the whispers, and instead of shame, he felt pride. He thought he was clever. He forgot one truth: you can hide from people, but you cannot hide from God. One afternoon, an elderly widow named Saraswati Amma knocked on Raghav's door. She lived with her sick grandson. Her son had died years ago, and she survived by stitching clothes late into the night. Her lips were dry, her hands trembled. "The well dried before my turn," she said softly. "My grandson has a fever. Do you have a little water?" Behind Raghav's house stood large clay jars filled with stolen water. For a moment, something inside him moved, but greed spoke louder. "I don't have extra," he replied coldly. "I must think of my own family." She nodded gently. "May God ease your heart," she said, and walked away. That night, the wind sounded different, but Raghav ignored it. Weeks later, the well became empty. Not low, not weak, empty. The village elders gathered beneath the old tree. "We must dig a new well," one said quietly. "One last attempt. If we find water, we survive. If not..." The next morning, the entire village worked together under the burning sun. Men dug, women carried soil, boys wiped sweat from their fathers' faces. Raghav came too, but worked slowly, avoiding eyes, conversations, and his conscience. For days they dug. Dry soil, silence. Hope began to fade. Then one morning, Raghav walked toward his fields. He stopped. His heart sank. The once green crops were brown, brittle, dead. The soil cracked beneath his feet. Insects had eaten the roots. Fungus covered the stems. He ran to the water jars behind his house and opened one. The smell hit him first. The water had turned dark and thick. Green slime floated on top. Worms wriggled inside. The water he had stolen had rotted. The same water for which he lied, for which he refused a thirsty child, for which he betrayed his village, now destroyed him. God did not strike him with lightning. God did not send a storm. God simply allowed his own actions to return to him. The greed he planted became loss. The lie he spoke became isolation. The stolen water became poison. Shame weighed heavier than hunger. Meanwhile, the villagers tried digging again, just a little deeper at the new spot. Hours passed. Then suddenly someone shouted, "The soil feels wet!" They dug faster, and then it happened. Water burst upward from the earth, clear, cold, overflowing. People stepped back in disbelief. Some cried, some raised their hands toward the sky. "Thank you, God!" The village was saved. A few days later, Raghav walked slowly toward the new well. He looked thinner, smaller, broken. He stood before everyone. "I stole the water," he said quietly, "from the old well. I lied. I thought no one would know." Silence fell. Some remembered their thirsty children. Some remembered fear. But they also saw a man already punished by his own deeds. An elder stepped forward. "God has shown you the result of your choices," he said calmly. "If he allowed you to realize your mistake, who are we to refuse forgiveness?" He turned to the crowd. "If we want mercy, we must give mercy." One by one, the villagers nodded. Someone handed Raghav a cup of clean water. Another offered him bread. No insults, no humiliation, only grace. Raghav wept. He finally understood that life is not about taking more, it is about being right. He did not become the richest man in the village, but he became peaceful. Remember this. God does not ignore even the smallest action. Every drop of kindness returns as mercy. Every drop of greed returns as loss. You may think no one sees, but God is the best of witnesses, and life is the perfect mirror. So be careful what you give to the world, because one day it will return to you, not to destroy you, but to teach you.
If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and comment. Your one comment inspires me to create better stories. Thank you everyone for giving so much love. We'll meet again with a new story.